Hi everybody, it's Lennon, and today we are looking at the Tree of Life. And I've got a couple of packs, same pack of cards, but I've got the Major Arcana here, and I've got the like Ace through Tens of the Cup suit here, and I've got the Cup Court cards, because we're going to talk about all of the cards, but not together. They're kind of separate, and what I want to do today is explain a little about all that you see here. So, Qabalists, okay, and that is Qabalists with a Q, which is different than Jewish Hermeticism, Jewish mysticism, okay, just a little bit. There's the same key points mostly, but from what I gathered in research, it's a little bit different than the Jewish Kabbalism, okay? So, like I said, Hermetic Qabalah, they are practitioners of Qabalah. Like I said, Qabalah with a Q. And it's like, that's a Western esoteric tradition. So it kind of involves mysticism, occultism, and it pretty much could make up the foundation for like Theolema, Golden Dawn, like magical societies, right? Now, that's just for a clarifier. And we want to look at, like I said, this kind of differs from Jewish mysticism, and we want to look at the Tree of Life in like a Western standard. So this would be a Western tradition, is kind of what I'm going to go over right now. So this whole thing, this whole outline here is called the Tree of Life. I drew this, so the lines aren't symmetrical, people. This drawing here, okay, this chart, I'll say, for lack of a better term, is used by the Qabalist for meditation, okay? And I want you to imagine for a minute that this is an actual tree. Up here would be like the heavens, okay? And I'll explain a little bit about what they say is like up here above Kether, all right? And then we kind of bloom down to Malkuth down here, right? And picture the roots going this way and the tree blooming out into the sky / heavens, okay? That's kind of how this goes. That if you meditated on like these circles and the paths separately, and then also work from bottom to top, then it's kind of like path to ascension type of a thing, if you are into that. It's kind of along those same lines. And they believe that once they meditated on them separately, then in turn they would understand the whole, bringing them closer to Kether and the light. Okay, that's what's up here. I'll explain that in a second. I want to quickly shout out the fact that there was I'll call him a scholar, Eliphas Levi. I think I'm saying that right. He was the first to publish on this subject in 1855. So this could have been studied way before 1855, but he was the one that put it to paper, so to speak, and associated these paths and these circles with especially with the trumps of the tarot, which is the keys. And so I wanted to shout that out for a second. And I've kind of researched this in kind of all backgrounds, but I want to, y'all know me, I love the Thoth deck, and I was kind of looking in there too. And Crowley in the Book of Thoth states that the tarot was designed as a practical instrument for Kabbalistic calculations. So he believes that, like, especially in his deck, which I didn't use because this is just a regular tarot video, people, not a Thoth, but I believe that means that he believes that because there are associations with the tarot and this Tree of Life chart here, that if they were meditating on this, like all these separately and then as a whole, and then there's like leading them up to the light of ascension, so to speak, then the tarot could essentially be the tool as well. If there's associations and we plug these in, then you have this and this. This is like a double feature, and it's like coming at it. It's coming to Kether like this. So I kind of believe that's where Crowley was going with that. And you'll be able to see in even the Rider-Waite that like there are associations with the tree of life, like her veil back here with the pomegranates is in the shape of a tree of life. So there are some associations in the cards themselves, like pictorial wise, but anyway, okay. So before we dive into the cards, I want to kind of explain this a little bit. And we're going to look at this as a whole thing, this whole chart here. And I want to say that this whole right pillar, okay, they call this the pillar, or these pillars. This right pillar is the masculine pillar. This is the pillar of mercy. As you can see, that's the key word here for Hasad, okay? And so this whole pillar is the masculine. That would be like the masculine energy of this chart. So as you like wisdom, mercy, victory, right? And this whole pillar is the masculine. It's like the masculine energy side of this chart. And that's like, this is like how the energy flows is through these three things. Okay. And then we look at the left, the feminine energy pillar. Okay. And this would be form. All right. So understanding severity and splendor. So this would be the feminine aspect of this. Okay. So I want you to picture energy radiating everywhere. And I think I've said in a video before that I picture energy like a wave, right? It comes kind of like this, like jellyfish style. And if energy is radiating, right? And so to gain any energy, right? To gain anything, you have to kind of have a form, so to speak. And I kind of like to think of humans that way as well. Like we kind of seem to be the forms that hold our energy flow. Now, if there was no kind of form, okay, there's nothing to contain the energy. Now, I get that in some research it said that there's a containment issue, okay? We can overfill, but we have to kind of work and keep the scales in balance to make sure we don't have too much or not enough. And I think that that's work, right? It does become kind of like workish. So I kind of feel like that's what this is. So this is the energy. And then this is the form that holds this. Just like humans, just like the universe, just like system thinking, okay? It's the same kind of concept. Then we have the middle pillar, okay? This whole thing right here. All right? Now this pillar is the pillar of harmony. So this is basically the mixing of those two pillars. Like this is like integration. And if we look back, I will pronounce these correctly, okay? But very, like right above Kether is An Sof Or, okay? And that means limitless light. So there's limitless light right here above Kether. Then above that is Ein Sof. Okay, so you take the or off of it. So that just means limitless. Okay? And then above that, there's just Ein, which is nothingness. Okay, so if you go back to my secret geometry video, which I'll leave below, that's kind of what we're doing here. We're going from this point of consciousness, and then as we come down this, just like sacred geometry, we're expanding, growing light, and we're manifesting. Okay, so that's what I think of when I think of this. Okay, so if Kether, basically that would be like the very first emanation of light. Very first manifestation of light. So if that's the case, okay, and the light is just kind of continuing down and dispel down here to Malkuth, then all the circles right here, and I'll explain what those are in a minute. All these circles right here are technically vessels that are spilling, like the light shines down, 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 kind of like water, okay? So the energy kind of flows like this, right? Down through all these circles. And these happen to be vessels, right? Kind of makes sense. If you think of it in terms of light, then this would be like translucent light. So this would be like a veil, okay? And then this down here would be this vessel. You wouldn't hardly be able to see any light in there. So I think of that like dark glass, but this is not translucent. This is pretty opaque. But, okay, on Markuth, okay, it says kingdom, which I think is pretty awesome. But Malkuth is earthly plane of existence, where we are now, okay? So if you earthly plane, then you really need a stronger vessel to be able to hold the essence of what the Kether is, okay, or what godhead or heaven is. You need a bigger and like a hardier vessel for that. And a translucent vessel, think of that like thin crystal, right? So they get stronger as they go, right? And it kind of needs to happen that way. And Qabalists, they meditate up the tree, like I said, moving through these dimly lit vessels to eventually get up to this crystal clear. Okay. Now, as we are looking in this as a whole, okay, and we will go back and explain each one. But I want to say this. Kether, Binah, and Hokmah. That's 1, 2, 3, okay? They are abstract concepts. These three right here, they're abstract. There's nothing manifested yet, okay? Like, they're kind of sacred mystery-esque, okay? So this is like supreme mystery of the universe and all. That's, like I said, abstract manifestation. Then we move down to Hased, Gevurah, and Tifereth, okay? So then these three right here. I hope I'm doing that right. These three right here, Gevurah, Tifereth, and Hased, okay, are, that would be like your higher self, right? So whatever is right above your head, you're like your own head, it's part of you, but outside of your like physical body. So like I said, this kind of be your higher self, and this would be like that's where your individuality is. Like, that's where your uniqueness is, according to my research with this right here, okay? Then we go down to Netzach, Hod, which is over here, and Isad, okay? And they are the lesser mysteries. So these three, that would make up your personality, okay? Would be, or if this is your personality, then this might be your ego. Or it could be just like your psyche, total. So this is like your total psyche. And then finally, you get to Malkuth. Now it's named kingdom. But this is your physical body, this physical vessel that is on our plane of existence right now. That's what Malkuth is. Okay? So, you come down all the way, you're coming up from Malkuth, which is your physical body, which could be in turn a dark vessel, okay, an opaque vessel. And then you move up to Kether, which is like, that's like the unification between you and the Godhead right here in number 1. Okay, so that's you and the Godhead doing this. That's like I said, you're going up, kind of thinking in terms of ascension here. Okay? Okay, now, what are the circles called? They are called sephirahs. All right? And the paths that lead to and from all of them, that's what they're called. They're called paths, these lines. Okay? So it will be easy to kind of associate the number cards with the sephirahs, okay, these things. Because they're all numbered. They're already numbered for us. But I'm going to go over each one of them, okay? But first, I want to say that in terms of, I'm only using the cup suit today, just for this exercise, but I wanted to say something about the suits in general, okay? Carl Jung calls, like, I don't want to think in terms of these, like this Tree of Life exercise, I don't want you to think of these in terms of just their elements. Jung had said something about elements being elementals, which I feel like elementals are elements and that we put different characteristics on there, because we kind of do with these, like water. Automatically we think of emotion, right? We think of our heart, right? Thinking with our heart, stuff like that. And so those aren't technically elements, they're elementals. And Jung had attributed each elemental, okay, with, I guess you could say, forms of your consciousness. So air, that would be the sword suit, would be your mental capacity, okay, and all that encompasses. And then earth, which would be pentacles, that's your senses, okay, so that's your perception reality, what you see and believe right now, like the way, and then the way you interpret that. And then you have fire, which is wands, okay, and that's your drive. Usually that's like your if we kind of think of this in terms of liminal thinking a little bit, then if air is like your mental capacity, how you interpret what you see and everything, and then your intuition, that's something different. Your intuition is something that you know on like a base collective unconscious level, right? It's just some kind of feeling that you have and you're not sure where it comes from. You're not even sure if you believe your intuition sometimes because your brain's too busy trying to rationalize. But so I wanted to start by saying that. So when we look at and then the water, of course, like I already said, is emotion. And so when we look at this, and I could have branched out and showed you every single card in the tarot. But if you look up this tree of life, you can do your own. Like, feel free to do your own expansion of this because it has been really like eye-opening for me, especially learning with the Thoth deck, because he does do some associations like that as well with the tree of life. But as we go through the sephirahs with the number cards, okay, I want to kind of look at it in terms of mixing what they say each sephirah is, and then if we can tie that in, see if it makes sense. Spoiler, it's going to. Okay. That's why this has been associated with this, okay? So, I'm going to leave that right there. All right, now, we start at Kether, okay? Now, its keyword is crown. Now, I've already said that Kether is like white brilliance. So that's like a brilliance of light. And that would be the aces, okay? And remember, when we think of the aces, I kind of think, I kind of think of the aces as like the suits as a whole. Not the beginning, not the end, but kind of like that, try that transitional card, right? But it's like before this, like everything in the suit has happened. That's what I kind of think of the aces. And that's Kether, okay? So this is pure spirit. This is like the before everything. So this is Kether is unmanifest. So this is pure essence of light, okay? Now, if you think back on sacred geometry, like I keep saying, then this probably would be, this is the void, okay? There's nothingness here except this cup. Now, in this case, the cup is the point. You have drawn your point of consciousness with this cup. Therefore, when we associate it with this element or elemental, then this point would be the point of consciousness with your emotions. Kind of makes sense when you think of the Ace of Cups, right? Pretty interesting. Okay, I'm going to put that up there because we're going to go kind of fast here. Now, we go down this path to Hokmah, which is wisdom. Okay? And then we have this. Okay? I love this rendition, this linen rendition of the Rider-Waite. And it says it's called wisdom, like I said. And this is kind of going to show like the elementals in their basest form. Okay? So this would actually be what water is. Whatever it constitutes as, this would be it, number 2. Now, this is on the masculine side, right? So this is the Great Father. This is the very first manifestation of water, right? So this is the very first, they call it wisdom, right? So it's like, okay, well, wisdom with water, you think, that's kind of like that first feeling that you get where you kind of know how to align your emotions. It's pretty interesting when you think about it. So, when I think of this as like an emotional connection. or gaining an emotional connection or exchanging of, right? So how does wisdom tie into that? Okay, these are things that we think about when, if they've already done the associations, then it's like, says wisdom. So how is an emotional connection wisdom? Well, if you think of this at its base form, then you got to be wise to have that, to have and to gain emotional connections, right? Now we come to the feminine, right? Feminine. Now, this is Bana. And this keyword is understanding. So all the threes are about understanding. And this is pretty interesting because I think of the great Ma, if he's the great father, then she's the great mother, okay? And all the threes will reflect that feminine energy, okay? So think of multiplicity, right? It will come and she becomes the creatrix of everything. So this is after we have cemented and made the connection, more will come because we're going to manifest that with our feminine energy at its base form. This is our feminine energy at its base form. We will make more connections, but we have to be and have the emotional wisdom to do it, right? And let's back up a little bit. I want to say that Kether, and they're numbered so you can kind of go off of this, but I want to say it goes in a lightning bolt, the path of the sephirahs, okay? So it goes down, over, okay? Okay, like I said, it kind of goes in a lightning bolt, like this. Yeah. So that's kind of an interesting way to look at it, though. But anyway, back to this. So if this is understanding, then all of the threes in each suit will have that as its base form. And then this is the very first feminine energy that we will encounter. So we have to think of it as that's our base feminine energy and what that's going to be. That's a creatrix, right? So it's like we are gaining multiplicity with this, with the threes. And we're manifesting whatever the suit is. So in this card, we're manifesting our emotion. More of it, more connections, right? Moving on. All right. I don't want these to slide everywhere. Okay. We've gone down to Hokmah, to Bana, and now we're going to go over here to Hesad, which is mercy. Okay? Think of this as like Jupiter, okay? That's how I want you to think of this. So it's stability in its highest form. All right? So think the cube, right? So we've manifested. We've got some wisdom now. Now that we have wisdom, we have a better chance of understanding the wisdom, okay? And sponging it in. And then we're going to come down here. Now, once we've understood our wisdom and we're making the connections, right? We're in all the suits. Then, of course, we have to figure out that I think of this as this is when we first realize the world isn't all good. And that not all people are good or bad. And that, what did Gandalf say? It's not knowing when to take a life, but when to spare one. That's that first time that you have that feeling in all the suits, right? So like I said, he's always looked kind of lackadaisical to me, kind of not daydreamy, but like I guess bored. So it's like, where does mercy fit into that? And I thought, okay, well, he's kind of emotional, right? He's not very emotional, but he's kind of emotional. But and they say when these hands come out of these clouds, it's the hand of God. So he's trying to gain, in this case, he's trying to gain some emotion to back something, okay? But he's just so set. And he's learned, look, if I have anything else, I have to kind of juggle now. I have to figure out what's serving me and what's not. So that's kind of how I think of that. That's kind of cool, right? Okay, the lightning bolt has come down, and now we're going to go right over to the feminine side of that, which is Qabalah. All right? fives. So the fives, all the fives are severity, okay? Think of this as the middle between Kether and Malkuth, because it is. It's a 5. So, if this is the middle, and I'm not talking in terms of pillar or anything else, but if this is like that middle ground between you and Godhead together and you on the earthly plane of existence, then this is pushing limits. The fives are pushing limits. They're passing judgments, right? He's assessing everything. He's assessing all of this. Okay? And every 5 is going to expand you to see what your limit is. So that's its goal. Now, I know this doesn't look like a very good goal. But that's what its purpose of the 5s, the severity of it. It's taking you to some limits. Okay? It's kind of pushing your buttons. Think of it in like terms of like terrible 2s with children. They're pushing your buttons to see where your boundaries are. So this is testing your boundaries. And if you don't have any, to make them. That's what the 5s are. Okay. 6s. Like I said, I'm going to do this lightning bolt so y'all can get the picture. We're going down the lightning bolt. Okay. We've gone masculine mercy all the way over to severity with Qabalah. And then we're going to come down to Tifereth. And this is our very first pillar of harmony, sephirah, right here. And this is beauty. That makes perfect sense when you see this card right here, right? This nostalgic inner child card is what I like to call it. And I like to think of Tifereth as like, this is like if the sun were in a suit, this would be the sun. So this is kind of like, I think that all the 6s are that most pure and beautiful of their suits. So in its element, or an elemental, it's at its purest form of happiness. Okay? So this is emotional happiness, right? This is your emotions are on point. You are planting all your flowers and they're actually blooming. Some of us don't have green thumbs, but that's what this is. So all the 6s in each one of their suits, that's going to be like their purest form and they're most happy in their elements. And that's why it's called beauty. Okay? Now let's go down, okay, because the lightning bolt goes this way, right? So we're going through Qabalah to Tifereth. Now we're going to Netzach, and that's victory. Okay? Now if you kind of think of the 7 of Wands, he's like sitting on a horse, right? And he's got these wands, and everybody's got a wand, and he's just like riding through the town like Lady Godiva, you know, like, yeah. And Netzach is, that would be like what, like, it says victory. And show us the things that we want. All of them. And it tells us, okay, you want all of these things? And it gives us this emotions to go and take them. So right now, they're showing us all of our fairy thoughts, okay? That's what Arthur Edward Waite said that in his book. I thought fairy thoughts, wow. These are things that we want to fight for, and we are just realizing that, right? And just having the drive to fight for the things that we want is a victory. That's why it's named this. And so, like I said, if we kind of think of this in terms of fairy thoughts, right? Then this curtain here, like, what's behind the curtain? He is realizing that he's going to fight for this. But that feeling he gets when he realizes that's what he wants and he's going for it, that's a victory in and of itself. Fascinating. Okay, let's move on because this is so long. Okay, lightning bolt down. We're at Netzach, right? This is the masculine victory, masculine energy victory. And then we all the way over to the feminine side, or the feminine pillar, to Hod. And this is splendor. So this is like intellect, right? The planet that rules this is Mercury. All the 8s will be a mental card, okay? Like general mental. You're having to put your whole mind into it. And so if this is splendor, I believe that, and this is also intellect, kind of like a Mercury card, then it's like you're really sitting and thinking with what you have in each suit, okay? So this isn't like a testing card like we've already seen. This is more of a sit with what you have now. You've gone through the fairy thoughts, right? You have that feeling of victory. But now it's like, okay, think about what you've gained. Think about what your emotions, think about your mental capacity, think about your intuition, right? Your drive, your passions. Sit with that for a little while. And I love that he's walking away, but it's more like this is the hermit, right? And he's sitting with all this. They're not spilling over. He's able to come back to self in this card, I believe. Like, yeah, he looks like he's got a staff and he's moving away, but he could very much just be camping here. Not really going anywhere, just kind of with himself and his emotions. It's pretty interesting. Okay. Next, we go down to Yazad. Okay. This is foundation. Now, if you think Malkuth is like the beginning of roots, then this is the trunk. Has to be. There has to be a trunk here. So this is the base of the roots. Think about how big around most trees are right there. Okay. That definitely makes sense for that to be called foundation. Okay. This is your collective unconscious. This is a soul sephirah. Okay. The bottom of the tree of life. This is the astral plane. Okay. Could be considered the astral plane. All the nines are going to be foundation cards. Okay. All of them. And it's like the elements, each element, or elemental, I keep saying element, each elemental is going to they're taking their suits to the brink in the nines. They're just taking them full. Basically, what's happening is we're mortar brick, whatever the suit is right now in the nines. We're forcing the foundation because we have to. We have to grow some roots. We have to grow up, grow down at the same time, and you have to start at the foundation. You have to build your foundation. Okay? I like to think of this directionally. The cups are behind him, and he's got this very, like, debonair, like this very stable posture here. And I kind of think of this as his shield, like he has all of his emotions as his backbone, so to speak. And I feel like he's utilizing and actually has a good foundation emotionally. So in the cup suit, we're not even going to go to the other suits where we don't like it. Okay? So they should be what their elemental foundations are. So whatever the nines are depicting, so think of the swords, right? That's what the foundation is. So it's like that brick wall before you build up the house, okay? So that's what the nines are going to be. And then finally, we get to the earthly plane, the tens, okay? I love this 10. Malkuth. This is completion. This is the resting place, okay? This is, if you think of it, like I said, this is the tree trunk. This is like underneath the ground. Malkuth is the kingdom we are standing on, okay? And I love the way that kind of depicts that, because this is like the ground, right? But then this is the possibility of new beginnings. This is the alternate between good and bad, difficult and easy. This is like a space of liminality, and we are standing on it as humans right here. We're standing in a space of both. Okay? We're both this couple. See, these people right here, they're dressed the exact same as these. They're both the same thing. Okay? That means this couple is this. If you think of it like when I talk about the court cards a little bit in another video, I kind of think of the court cards this way. Here's the husband, here's the wife, right? Let's go with this, people. Husband, wife. They have 2 kids. Well, then they grow up and they both will essentially become these 2 people. Circle of life, right? That's what this is saying. So it's that, the possibility of everything turning around and starting all over again at the aces. And that's what this is. The kingdom of it all. We're standing here, right? At the roots. So, to start back over at the light. Once we die and we're already in the ground as in the kingdom, right? We go to ground, so to speak. Then we become the light and we're shedding back down again, starting all over again. So, that's so cool. All right, and now I want to go over one thing. The court cards. Now, I'm not going to go over too hardcore on this, but I want to say I'm going to put these where they belong. Queens. Let's move these out of the way. Queens. Kings. It'll be kings right here. And then page. And then princes. Okay? Which is knights. So the court cards are thus far. Okay? The kings. Remember I said that's your base form of masculine energy. So he's the base form of his masculinity, or not masculinity, masculine energy in his suit. The base form of it. And then she is the feminine energy in her suit. These are base forms. Okay? And then we come down here. All right? I'm moving it aside so you can see. The pages would be Malkuth in their suit. The kingdom of their suit. The spirit of their suit. Okay? And then the knights in the Rider-Waite deck. Okay? Not the Crowley deck, but in the Thoth. But the knights here, this would be Sephirah. Okay? Remember, if we go back to what Sephirah is, this is like I said, the happy card, right? This is the most beautiful of their suits. But in terms of this, okay, we look at the beauty aspect of it. The beauty of this family, right? Like I said before, in terms of liminality, these just represent the 2 base energies we all have in us. Okay? But then, we're not just masculine and feminine energy in a yin-yang, okay? We have beauty within us, and we all are on the kingdom. So, and then if we work up, like in meditation of a Qabbalist, then we start at the page, or as the page, on the kingdom. And then we move up and get light, okay? Realizing the beauty. Now, remember I said this is integration in this pillar. So this is both. You realize you have both, okay? Like this. So, kingdom. Start at the kingdom. Work up light. Realize that you have both and the beauty of that. And then, before you ascend to the godhead and to become one with that, you're only your base form. So, fascinating. Okay, now, I know what y'all are thinking. What about these? And that it's really interesting because we could talk all day about just those alone. But I'm going to read something, okay? There was an author, okay, way back in 1888. So this is after Levi, called, his name was MacGregor Mathers, okay? And he wrote a book called The Tarot. And I want to say this quote from his book, okay? And I'm going to kind of go through these as I go. I'm going to write this quote down below because I think it's so interesting that y'all might want to check it out. All right? Thus, the whole series of the 22 trumps will give a connected sentence which is capable of being read thus. The human will, enlightened by science and manifested by action, should find its realization in deeds of mercy. The wise deposition of this will give him victory through equilibrium and prudence over the fluctuations of fortune, fortitude, sanctified by sacrifice of self, will triumph over death itself, and thus a wise combination will enable him to defy fate. In each misfortune, he will see the star of hope shine through the twilight of deception. Ultimate happiness will be the result. Folly, on the other hand, will bring around evil reward. But if no folly, then you end with good reward. And that's from his book. He wrote that in 1888. I thought that was interesting, which does put the full, he says folly, and I think that's what this means. So that puts the full before judgment even. And I thought that was so freaking cool that happened. Okay. All right. Okay. I know we're all wondering about the majors now. And each major is associated with a path that like kind of connects two sephirahs. Okay. Now remember, each sephirah has a keyword or a name, so to speak. And so when we look at the majors, we can kind of like try to tie in the two keywords to see if it makes sense. And I don't know, sometimes I'm not able to do that if I'm really not. So the full card, he would be in between Kether and Chokmah, in between the crown, which is like right at manifestation of light, to wisdom. Well, if he's in between the two, okay, he very much looks like he doesn't have any wisdom yet, right? But he's about to get some when he steps off the cliff. When he steps off the cliff, that'll be when he gets to Chokmah, right? So this makes a lot of sense, having the in-between there, between manifestation of light and wisdom. The full goes there perfectly. Okay. Magician. I love this card. This would be Kether to Banah, all right? So that is the manifestation of light and understanding. Now remember, these are abstracts, okay? So none of this is manifested yet, not really. So if you think about it that way, then the Fool is up here in between Kether and Chokmah, and then the Magician is right here. So these are basically, remember how we were kind of saying the kings, the queens, and the kings were here, right? But if these are the paths, then you go from the light, okay, to Chokmah, which is the Fool. So you start at the Fool. You're light, and then you start at the Fool. No wisdom, okay? Then once you get wisdom, you have to turn that into understanding, and you have to use your tools for that, right? The Empress is next, or I put them in the order that we're going to go in, okay? Now, Empress would be Banah, okay, to Chokmah. So this path here. She's in between those two. And if you think of it that way, okay, and how she's the great, like, think of her as like the great manifestation of Mother Earth, right? Then that would be that line between wisdom and understanding. You have to have both to make us, so to speak. Us in manifestation form. She's the beginning of us getting manifested, okay? And then we get the Chariot, okay? Now he connects Banah to Qabalists, okay? This little bitty path right here. So we've gone essentially like this, okay? Up here, we're still up here in like the abstract. And then we get the Chariot, and he sits right here in between Banah and Qabalists, Okay, understanding and severity. Well, does mean that once you start understanding things, and then this is going to test you, right? We said the severity of the fives is like the middle ground. It's going to test you. But once you start understanding things, and then you have to be hard on the things that you understand, that's a choice, right? And that's a split, and it can be a split. So that makes a lot of sense there. Now next would be the Hierophant, which is on this side, Chokmah and Hesed, which is wisdom, or wisdom and mercy. Well, that makes sense for him too. If he's the conduit between Godhead, okay, we'll call it Godhead because that's what they call it in this mysticism, between Godhead and us, like us in our physical plane, in our physical body, then he would have to have mercy on us, and he does. Think of him as the priest, right? And then he has to have the wisdom of both, of people and the Godhead. Okay, so that makes a lot of sense for the Hierophant to go there. Okay, next is the Emperor, and we're gonna have to move some things around because the Emperor is Chokmah and Tiferet. So this is these two. Okay, Chokmah is wisdom, Tiferet is beauty, and that is the Emperor. Okay, right in between these two. So if you think wisdom and beauty, now we said beauty is like the beautification of its suit, right? Literally the all, okay, or the all of the happiness and whatever in their suits. That's what the sixes are. But then up here with wisdom, it's like if he's supposed to, like, why wouldn't he be over here to the severity, right? This, you kind of have to like put yourself in the shoes of the Emperor for a second. If he's got a lot of wisdom because he's in control, right? He just looks so in control. And we could kind of probably tie in some zodiacal things in here as well to kind of make this make sense. But I kind of thought of it as he can see the beauty of all the suits, and he has the wisdom of like their workings, and that's why he's able to stay in control. So that's kind of how I looked at that. Okay, now to connect Banah to Tiferet, okay, so that's understanding and beauty. What do you think that we would get? The Lovers. Okay, so that's understanding and beauty. Once you understand that abstract thought and you add beauty to it, that's an integration right there. That's an integration between a whole bunch of things, right? You see, it's not just these two people and they have this mountain in between, right? But it's literally two things here that are like this, and they're coming together. And you have to have understanding, and then when you add that beautification of those elements together, like say if you were to add two elements together and that makes something, okay, think alchemy, then the Lovers make sense there. Okay, let's keep going. We're probably gonna have to move some of these because I didn't make this big enough. Okay, strength is next, and that is Qabalah, which is severity, to Hesed. So this line, okay, that's where she goes right there. She is the complete middle line between severity and mercy. I don't have to say anything else. That makes perfect sense there. She is strength. This woman, this whoever, the strength, the capacity of strength is having the balance, right? We'll get to balance more in justice. But I think that strength in like a total kind of a sense, you think mental strength, emotional strength, all that rolled into one. You have to have mercy, and you have to be able to be severe too with yourself and with the people in your lives. Like that's kind of like boundaries to me. But then we're going to come way back to the high priestess, and that is connecting Kether to Tiferet. So this line right here, she is the beginning of the harmony pillar, from manifestation straight to beauty. There, she's androgyne, okay? She is the embodiment of beauty and pure light. When I think of it in that way, I kind of think of her as like Galadriel from Lord of the Rings. This ethereal, I don't want to say all-knowing, because that seems kind of not true, but very knowledgeable in whatever, like it, whatever philosophy that she's taken over. Okay. And that makes perfect sense with having the beauty of it and knowing the beauty of it and then having the light to go with that. That makes perfect sense for her to be there, right? Now we get to justice. Now this is Qabalists and Tiferet. So this little bitty line, I keep moving this thing, this little line right here. So this is severity and beauty. Having the severity, right? But then also being able to turn the severity around. Remember this, like I said, the fives are going to test us and kind of start pushing our buttons. But then once we can see the beauty in the situation or in whatever element we're in even, then it's about balancing the two. So, and you'd think that that would be Qabalists and mercy, but it takes a certain type of strength, right? Then you have to have that strength in order to be the judge in your own life. That's how I think of it. If you don't have strength, then there's no way you can be this. So, justice goes Qabalists and Tiferet. Okay? So, having strength right here and then having justice in between these two, that makes sense. You can have strength here and then you have justice. I wonder what this is going to be. Now, we had justice over here, right? You think that this over here would be the opposite of that. But it's the Hermit. Beauty and mercy. Having the beauty, right? Once you have the beauty, you know the beauty of the situation, whatever you're facing, okay? And then you learn, you're not being severe with yourself. You're having mercy on yourself, okay? You see the beauty in the mercy that is you. I feel like this right here is telling us to honor ourselves, and maybe we do have to go to a place of solitude to get that. And I think that's pretty interesting to have that there. Because like I said, sometimes it's going to be hard to kind of mesh the two. Now the next is the Hangman. And this is Qabalists and Had. So severity right here. Severity and splendor. That's the Hangman. Okay. Now, like I said, this is the testing card, pushing your buttons. And then we have splendor. And remember, the eights is, I kind of think of eights as like an opportunity, right? But if you're getting your buttons pushed, but you also have opportunity, then you maybe have to look at that at different perspective, right? Or else you're not going to be able to have the balls, so to speak, to take the opportunity. Be severe on yourself, or in a sense, okay? Be severe enough on yourself to know when to go and get another perspective, and then you can reap the benefits of that opportunity. And I thought that was, like I said, we're kind of looking at tarot outside of the box, people, so this is kind of fun. Then we get the Wheel of Fortune, and that's Hesed with Netzach, and that's over here. So that, like I said, you think that that would be the opposite, right? I'm getting a serious case of deja vu right now, and I have never done this. I must have read tarot in a past life, y'all. So this is mercy and victory. Now over here, remember, we're gaining perspective to get to the splendor or to take advantage of the splendor. And then with this, it's mercy, right? And remember, right here is the Hermit card. You've gone to self, you've gone to soul, you've figured it out to see the beauty, right? But then on the, we'll say on the flip side, even though it's not, when you have mercy, okay? And I feel like mercy is just this ability right here. It's kind of like justice, but in more of a sedate form. And so to reap victory, see over here, we're reaping victory instead of splendor, instead of an opportunity. It's an actual feeling of victory that we've gained something, and it's about the push and pull of this. Having mercy and then allowing the push and the pull. So the good and the bad. Whatever the opposites are that we're juggling in this situation, we have to let it flow. Okay, we have to just let kind of like fate go, and then we'll be able to reap that victory. Or at least feel like we've gotten a victory out of it. So it's pretty interesting. Okay, and then we get on to Temperance, which is Tiferet and Yesod, which is this. I hate that I'm moving this. Tiferet is beauty, okay? And then Yesod is the foundation. Remember I said this is like the base of the tree. And so you have the beauty, okay, of this, like, this would be probably the beauty of it is where the tree splits and where all the branches are coming from, right? And then right here to Malkuth, that's the chunk of it, the chunk of the tree. And right there is where Temperance is. So what did I say? Beauty and foundation. So if you thought of that for a second, then this androgynine Archangel Michael, right? He's juggling this stuff, but in an almost defying gravity way. So it's like free flowing, and he's not really having to work at it. And I do think that this, well, to me, this card always represented like moderation in thoughts and actions and stuff like that. And so if we thought of it that way, once you have the beauty, okay, or you're understanding and have the wisdom, and you have severity and mercy together, have strength, you can get to beauty that way. Once you have beauty, okay, you can go ahead and lock down your foundation with that, with just knowing these, without Hod and Netzach, okay? So if you have all these, then you can stabilize a foundation, but you need Temperance to do that. Right? I feel like without this ability of moderation here, and without this ability to, I kind of, like I said, feel like this is more free. Kind of like this, but in a more personal sense. So this, having this person here instead of just the wheel, means that this is more of a, this is for you. Okay? And if we thought of that in like Tai Chi for a second, we're doing the work for self, but we're putting it to ground, and we're doing it up into the sky. And you have to have both, or you have to do both to reap the rewards from both, right? And I think that that's what this is saying. And so that makes perfect sense. You have to have Temperance in order to, like, once you've got the beauty, you can go ahead and set your foundation up. It is nice to have these two, though, along with that, right? You thought of it that way. Perspective, push and pull, and then in the middle of that would be you doing the work for ground and for sky in a Tai Chi sense. This is fascinating, you guys. Okay, we only have a few left. The Tower. Now this is Hod and Netzach. So remember, we have strength right here, okay? And now let's pull strength back out just so you can see. Strength is this line right here. Well, then the Tower would be right here, between splendor and victory. Okay? It's almost like saying, if you've got this swiftness, like this quick act that you have to take advantage of, you will, if you do this and you let yourself take this, maybe it won't be, you know, maybe it's going to be one of those things that's just like not being, like, it's not expected, right? But remember, I always talk about the Tower card in terms of you'll find the bliss on the other side, okay? And then you'll get victory. So it's about having both. The ability to take opportunities and then the ability to reap the rewards too. You have to let yourself feel the rewards too, or otherwise, what's the point? So I thought that was pretty interesting. Devil. Okay, we have to move these now. Again. Tiferet. Okay. Ooh, where does this go? Tiferet and Hod. Okay. Now, I'm probably going to have to do this. Okay. Right here. So, beauty and splendor. Wow, if that just makes perfect sense too. Okay. This line right here. Beauty and splendor. Now, if you think splendor is that you're able to take opportunities, but you're too busy having the beauty, right? So because you've got this mentality, right, that everything is beauty, everything is splendor, everything's an opportunity. And what happens with that? You get addicted to those things because you think everything's beautiful, and you lock yourself in with these chains, constantly chasing the high, so to speak. And this is my opinion, people. That's kind of how I think of the Devil card. And I'm not talking in just terms of addiction. I'm talking about in everything. But essentially, you find the beauty in everything and then get addicted to that kind of a feeling, and you lock yourself down with that. Okay? So that makes perfect sense. That goes right there. And then death is Tiferet and Netzach. I didn't write this one in either. Okay? So, the devil's on one side, okay, but death is on the other. And that's beauty and victory, right? Well, again, we see the beauty in everything. But then with this, we see, if you've ever watched the movie Sleepy Hollow, and the Hessian, okay, he's like one of these like Vlad the Impaler type of a character archetype things that's just war hungry, okay, bloodlust, that type of thing. And I know that we in tarot, the tarot community, think of death as like this. You have to let something go in order to be, anew again. But if we thought of this just in these terms of victory and beauty, you find the beauty in the victory feeling, right? So that's like you're constantly at war with yourself. You're not letting yourself, okay, like, I guess, to me, that kind of means there is some like letting go of there, but you're not. This is meaning you're not letting it go. You are not. You are stuck in between loving the high of war. So this is loving the high of splendor, and this is loving the high of victory. Both can be considered an addiction in terms of mentality. So this is saying to stop that, right? Stop it. Okay. Let's get down some of the happy stuff. Okay. So Hod, all right, I might have to draw some more lines here, people. No, I don't. So the sun is right here, in between Hod and Yesod, okay? So like we said, I've said in a couple of other videos, this is like pure happiness, and this is pure light with no shadows, total illumination, okay? And you can only get total illumination with a foundation and splendor on top of that. Splendor on top of that. That's how, so a solid foundation, right? And being able to reap the benefits of that. Just having your foundation, right? Now, if we looked at another side of this, okay, like the sun is over here. Well, then the star would be over here. So Netzach and Yesod, victory and foundation, is over here. So if you kind of think of that, then you have this solid foundation. You need splendor. You need to be able to be happy with the opportunities, okay? Trust in yourself type of a thing. And then you also need to have hope. Remember, I kind of call this my Pandora's box card. Whenever things arise, you do still, it's like don't give up, right? There's victory on top of your foundation. You have to keep the hope there. If you lose hope, you have nothing. You literally have nothing to fight for if you're not hoping for anything. So, it's interesting. Okay, we only have 3 more. And I keep saying interesting because it is, but once you see these last few cards that we're going to go through, it's going to be like, really? So I'm going to start with Judgment, and that is Hod and Malkuth. So, that's this. Okay? That's where Judgment is. Splendor and Kingdom. Okay? Well, it makes sense that Arthur Edward Waite and Pamela Coleman Smith would put this as like the rapture, right? Because if you think we're the kingdom, okay, now they say that this is the earthly plane of existence. So it's like, okay, well, we're on the earthly plane, and then once we have splendor, okay, we're getting, I guess, called up. I never liked the rapture aspect of this, but we're going to go with it. Now, if we turn this around, okay, actually, no, which is weird because the World card, oh yeah, here we go, whoopsie. Now we go up this way, right? And we're trying to look at 2 sides of the coin. And that is the moon. So this is like illusion, right? Disillusionment. Well, how does that make sense with kingdom and victory? Right? It don't. It doesn't. And so some of these aren't going to make a lick of sense, because when I think of judgment, I kind of think, okay, well, on this earthly plane, we do have to have some type of splendor mindset. And I think of that in terms of like knowing it's there. Not so much an opportunity, but knowing the splendor is there is good, as a good thought to have, to help grow and go this way. But then over here, okay, if this is thought and having that in your head, having splendor, okay, this is kind of outside of foundation. So here's your foundation. You have judgment on this side, okay? I kind of think of that in like Mott, right? The feather and the heart, weighing the two. So you have to be able to do that to yourself. And then over here, you have to be able to cast your yods on disillusion. So having both of those, okay, being able to weigh yourself and judge yourself, okay, in a pure sense, right? And then being able to look through the disillusionment. And those are good, solid outside foundations for you to have. And then, of course, the World card is in between Yesod and Kingdom. It's the foundation of your kingdom right here. And that makes sense. The World, remember if you watched my definitions video, then this word literally means human existence. So that's what this is. Your foundation of your kingdom is all of human existence. We're all connected like this in Malkuth. And that's what I get from that. That's all that card represents, is all of us connected as one in this one kingdom of Malkuth. Okay, that was so fun. And I hope that you join me when I want to look at tarot outside the box again.